Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. How many people flew in this morning and just came straight here? We got a few of us. Well, welcome to Buenos Aires. I'm Bridget. I'm the CMO of Moonsong Labs, and I am super excited to be in one of my favorite cities in the world talking about one of my favorite topics. So I'll just go ahead and let all the panelists introduce themselves, and we will kick it off.
Thank you for having me. I'm Gemma. I'm the COO of Valerie, which is the core contributor behind Olas, the platform for true co-ownership of AI. So Olas enables anyone to own and monetize their AI agent.
Hi, I'm Grigore Rosu. I'm the founder and CEO of Pi², where we build the fastest decentralized network for instant payments for humans and AI.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. My name is Renç. I'm the CEO of Giza. At Giza, we compress a lifetime of financial workflows into on-chain agents that you can own and they can act on your behalf. We'll try to keep this panel very, very entertaining and upbeat, so we move on from the Zoom call and really be among you guys. So thank you so much.
Engage, please.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike. I'm the CEO and founder at Talus. Our mission is to build a more efficient and democratic digital economy, and we'll do this by building an AI infrastructure network that will enable anybody to come and launch revenue-generating agents.
Thank you, thank you. And we will leave a few minutes at the end for questions, so just raise your hand and maybe it's me that will come around and hand you the microphone and we'll ask those. So I heard someone say the other day that the genie's out of the bottle with AI and with crypto. We can't put them back in the bottle. And I think with Balaji's opening words, they're very symbiotic. So, and I also heard someone say recently that it doesn't feel like crypto was built for humans to use it. It feels like it was built for agents. So I want to just sort of kick off with that and say, let's just set the stage of where are we today? Where are we with AI agents and payments in this moment from each of your unique vantage points?
Yeah, totally. I think anyone who's used crypto will instinctively feel the same, right? Everybody's been halfway through a transaction and had a mini heart attack. Just hope that it's all going to go okay. We're not built for tapping through 1 million screens and checking all these numbers, but obviously agents are. It's been interesting over the years attending these conferences and seeing the topics and kind of the energy changing. In 2021, when we were arriving and talking about agents in crypto, there was a lot of blank faces. We move on to 2022, 2023, post ChatGPT, and there were lots and lots of projects starting to talk about it. But I think even in the past few months, we've got this kind of swell of energy behind them and these standardization protocols coming up, which is so exciting to see. In terms of where we're at with autonomous agent economies on our side, so the first agent economies on Olas went live in 2023. So to date, they've done over 11.4 million transactions on chain. Most of those are agent-to-agent transactions. A lot of them come from the predict economy, so we can kind of dive into more about what that is. But yeah, I think this really does show, and it's with a relatively small number of agents. You can see all of these numbers verifiable on chain, like only 2,000 or so agents have done 11.4 million transactions. So really, it's not a case of the agents are coming, they're already here, but it's just a drop in the ocean from where we're going to be. So that's how we see it so far.
Yeah, so clearly the AI agents will put a lot of pressure on the blockchain technology. We are going to have millions of AI agents very soon working at the same time, paying each other for microservices, micropayments. And all of this will need to be settled and verified in a verifiable way. And I personally, and also our company, Pi², believe that blockchain as a technology is not ready for these agents. And I'm very glad that you said crypto and agents, because crypto is clearly made for agents, but I think blockchains are currently made for humans. They are as slow as we are, or slower even. We need to push the boundaries. We need to go to the next level of performance in Web3 and crypto. And blockchains cannot fulfill that need, at least the way they are now. 100,000 TPS sounds amazing for a blockchain, right? But it's too low. 1,000,000 TPS, in 1 or 2 years, it will also be too slow. So we need to break the paradigm, push things to the next level.
I think Gemma put it very well. She painted a perfect picture. And it's very true that the blockchain is very inhumane by nature, and we have also made it way less inhumane with the things that we built on top of it to date, made it more and more complex. I think in terms of like the past 3 years or so, at least from my lens, you know, we built the first zero-knowledge machine learning platform in Web3, and this was in 2023 when people were, you know, laughing at us for building things that are verifiable, or they didn't understand the value of verifiability. Then we built the first verifiable agent, and people didn't understand what agents were. And pairing that with something that they didn't understand even more with verifiability, it was like quite confusing. And to me, it's fascinating now that, you know, all of these things are coming to true. I think in the near past, we have also gone through like quite a speculative path of AI and crypto, where there was like tokens that were not agents, tokens that were not AI, and then they all went 99% down with everything else. So we went through like a self-cleansing, a self-maturing process. In the meantime, as my panelists mentioned, the infrastructure has been evolving. So now it feels like we're on the cusp of something quite interesting. Now finally it feels like, oh, like can these things can actually like work for us and like pay for us and like do our finances? So I think from now onwards is where things become really interesting. And up until this moment, it was like a learning curve and self-cleansing system.
Well, the biggest issue of Web 2 is that it's built for humans. Every website has a CAPTCHA. Every interface needs you to put your login and password, and agents can just not go through this right now. When you think about banks, how banks send transactions, you need to have a user login. They need to pre-approve you. They need to do KYC over you. And these things just don't translate to agents. So when you have like Web3 come up, you have code native interfaces, you have composability out of the box, you just have pre-written rules that anybody could come and follow. And when you add automation to this, you just make it much more useful for agents. You have payments out of the box, you have monetization frameworks out of the box, or at least that they're very easy to implement. And I just think that enabling agents to roam through this open infrastructure would enable them to add more value than what they currently are adding in Web 2.
So I think one of the points that you all touched upon is that, you know, I think you put it very nicely of like right now there was 2,000 agents that created all those transactions, and we are probably going to get to a world where each person probably has, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20, however many agents that's going to be. And what do you think the industry is going to look like? And what do you think we need to achieve as an industry to be able to create the infrastructure and viability for agents to scale with on-chain payments?
I can go first, so I can take Gemma away from being the first one to respond to everything, and we'll break the flow a little bit. And I will refrain from shilling Giza as much as I can in this panel. I'll have a talk right afterwards where I will do that. But from an infrastructure perspective, there's a couple of things that, you know, agents and AI really rely on. One of them is data, where everything starts with data, and on-chain financial data is extremely it lacks standardization. Every DeFi protocol has a completely different way of doing the same thing, and the less standardization that we have, the less intelligent automation we can get to. So that part we need to solve. The other part about when it comes to agents, especially the ones that are, you know, finance related, the most important thing is always profitability. How can I keep my user profitable? And those things rely on two main metrics, which is like latency and cost. Every transaction the agent gets into has a cost that eats into profitability. Every latent transaction eats into the alpha that it's chasing. So our ecosystems, and as he mentioned, like the chains that we operate on, they're not really built for this. These agents need predictability. These agents need low cost. These agents, regardless of how many millions or how many few thousands that it's using, it needs to have a predictable cost attached to it for it to become profitable. So all of these parts really need to be there. And the third part is more towards like composability and how do we make these things work together? How do we go from like having 10,000 different chains that are mostly dead to having a few that can combine with each other, can work with each other? How can we make protocols compatible? And in the meantime, you know, how can we make this a better space for users to operate on? I think these are the key infrastructure problems that we need to solve, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I totally agree that interoperability is hugely important. So it's great to see these standardization protocols coming out and people getting behind them. I think another key piece that we need, looking to what the future of AI looks like, is to make sure that ownership is at the center. Obviously, in Web3, we're kind of preaching to the converted a little bit here, but just to fast forward to this world where we do have each individually 5, 10, however many agents. I think nobody in this room is probably very interested in that, just recreating the same Web 2 paradigm, right? Where we're kind of renting access to these agents from centralized providers. Even in Web 3, there's still a lot of reliance on off-chain that's quite centralized, right? So if we as users are pouring all of our time, all of our data into these agents, and a huge amount of economic value is being created in entire economies, we really need to make sure that that infrastructure is retaining ownership for the people who are creating value, and we don't end up with a similar situation as we have in Web 2, where it's many, many users contributing to a Facebook, to a ChatGPT, to a whatever, and the companies are benefiting, but the users aren't seeing a share of that economic value.
Yeah, so clearly agents are going to be smarter and smarter, and they'll do more and more things for us. And as you said, there will be 4 or 5 or 6, 10 agents working for us at the same time, doing things for us. And no matter how smart they are and how deep their algorithms are, in the end, even suppose that they do their inference instantaneously. We know they don't, but suppose they do everything instantaneously. We'll end up with millions of things that need to be verifiably settled. Those could be micropayments, micro services, but lots of them. And I believe strongly that the blockchain technology is not ready for them. And even 1 million TPS will be too little for the future that is already here. So we need to very seriously take this into account. Yes, question? Wow, so fast.
Hello,
Right,
guys.
so we challenged you. We like it.
Well, I'm building agents as well, and I'm kind of new in Web3 world, but I have some questions about all of these we are living and building. Like, we have Virtuals, that is a network you can have agents interacting with together. I knew recently Talus network that has the same concept, and probably you guys are trying to build something like this as well. And I would love to hear more about your thoughts about ERC 8004. It's a protocol that I think could be a solution for us in terms of have trustless agents. And it's kind of a lot of things I'm saying here right now, but I love to hear more about this. And we don't have some kind of solutions for that right now that could focus on that and build more on top of it. And anyway, I don't know, just want to hear more.
Anybody wants to take? You want to go ahead?
I can take it. So I guess the biggest question here is, how do we build the right standards to make the most powerful agents? That be a good translation? Yeah. So at least we at Talus, we're building this verifiable agent framework called Nexus. And the idea is that you can bring the workflow of the agent on-chain. The workflow is defined as different modules and smart contracts, and then you could use multiple tools as building blocks to build whatever type of workflow you'd want to build. And these tools can be off-chain or on-chain. So you could call any smart contract or any Web2 service that exists, like Stripe, Twitter, and so forth. I do think that there's like 3 pillars that should be included in any type of framework. Verification, identification, you could ID what the agent does and you could have ownership over it. And then the ability to transact and pay and grow from there. And ultimately, I do think that the majority of the value will flow to agents that people can rent for them to just run any type of action. And that's something that we have been thinking specifically, calling it agent as a service. So you would basically have an agent defined by anybody. Somebody would say, oh, this agent is pretty valuable for, let's say, DeFi transactions or just identifying data or doing research. And then you would have a user pay for each type of agent execution that would provide goals or just solve any type of problem for their owners. And yeah, I just do think that these three core pillars are very important for any type of agent. And now people in the Ethereum ecosystem have started developing with this ERC 8004. And hopefully it gets widely adopted. I still think it's super early, and a lot of research has been made in Web 2 for agents, and just putting them together into Web 3 is going to take some time. And I also share with you that blockchains might not be ready yet. There's still a lot of primitives that need to be developed. There's still a lot of tools that also need to be developed for anybody that's pretty new into crypto to come and build. And I guess we're all here for that.
First of all, thank you for the question. If anybody else would like to have like this kind of direct questions, we're open to it. Like we have been core contributors to 8004, and it has certain pillars that I think are quite important for like both agents and like intelligence on chain. I always like to look at it from like a financial use case perspective, because I don't think like we have another use case for blockchain systems that is comparable today. Like, as agents become a new foundational primitive, like as any new financial instrument that is newly introduced to the world, the credit parts, which is the 8004 relies on, like the identity parts, it becomes a huge thing. Like, how do you understand the credit scoring of an agent, what it has done so far? And the credit scoring can be like many things, right? It can be performance, it can be persistence, it can be profitability, it can be all of those things. So having like a standardized way of scoring the new financial primitives that we introduce to the world just makes a lot of sense from like a purely economical perspective. The other part is verifiability, and you know, I have been building like the ZK frameworks for machine learning for the past few years. It's obviously like quite a novel technology, but there's also like use cases for it where it makes sense and where it, you know, requires, I think, more simpler solutions. If you can think of a graph where on one side you have complexity of computation and on the other side you have value of verifiability, the more complex the computation becomes, the more value on verifiability you get. If you're running a deterministic financial algorithm or a small model that will give you 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4, you don't have to go out of your way to add a verifiability layer to it. But as the panelists mentioned, as these agents become more and more smarter, as the intelligence itself, unnecessary, like not necessarily have to do with crypto or anything, but as the intelligence of running financial algorithms become more sophisticated, that's where you're going to need, you know, verifiability. That's where you're going to need these things. So setting these standards are, I think, quite important. I'm a bit more like techno-optimist in that way. I think like blockchain is very much ready now. Like it can be, obviously things are going to break, but that's totally fine. I think the intelligence we have today, if you use them in the right place at the right time, that will give you a very performant agent that can run your finances for you. We do these things today. So that's a little bit towards your question. I hope that answers a little bit, and I'll leave it to others.
Mike, did you have something else to add?
So, Renç, you're saying that as agents run more complex transactions, you're going to need more and more verifiability. Do you think it's based on transaction complexity, or what's at stake within a transaction?
I think it's a very good question. It's probably both, right? Like the context in terms of AI is always super important. Let's touch on like the context part a little bit. Like if we zoom out from our little world in DeFi and Web3, if you look at AI innovation in general, right now we're hitting like a spectrum where the models get more and more intelligent, but at the same time, the difference it makes is not as steep as it was before. Like first time I touched ChatGPT was like, oh my God, what is this? And now 5.1 doesn't feel so different than 5.0. But there's another lever there, which is like the context. If you can make things more contextual, if you can make them more like going towards like memory and everything else, if you make them more personalized, that's when it becomes important. So for example, having a verifiability for a model that runs specifically for healthcare use cases might be a lot more important and might be to have verifiability than whatever else. So I think both like from the context perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Also from the complexity perspective, I think it also makes sense. So not just like the transactions, but what is the computational power required to come up with that prediction, how complex it is, how repeatable it is. That's where I think verifiability comes a role.
You guys have anything to add? I want to give you some chance to answer too.
So let's go to the next question.
Next question. So I think one of the things that, I'm struck by that, the questions we just got and the answers that we're getting is obviously everyone in this room is probably a little bit more technically forward. We're not the average user. We're going to be willing to take more risks, try new things out. And, obviously crypto adoption was made by people in the same category as us. And agents, if you look at AI in general, it's like, what are the main things that have taken off? Something like ChatGPT, where a lot of people can use it. And when AI is enhancing people's lives on the day-to-day, making it simpler. So for on-chain payments and agent economies, where do you think the first major use case we're going to see this take off? Again, no one has a glass ball, but any insights as to where we think mainstream adoption might come from?
Yeah, I think as Renç was saying, the financial aspect is always going to be very important and compelling, and it's something that crypto can offer that a ChatGPT can't offer, right? If you think about how ChatGPT, we're used to engaging with these things, we're getting a lot of value from them, but we're also paying to rent that service, and so that makes sense as long as the value that you're getting is outweighing the costs. But Web3 has the ability to turn an agent into something from being a negative, from something that you're paying for, to something that is like in cold hard cash, paying you a lot more in return. And so, as I said on Olas, the biggest use case to the tune of 9 million transactions is predictions. So that's been something really big so far, but we also have the first DeFi agent that you could fully own, and we call it Baby Degen. And both of these are housed in actually a consumer app. So we agree. We think the real promise of crypto shouldn't just be limited to the technical people who are in this room, but hopefully everybody. And so the idea of this agent app store that we have called Pearl is that it's something that anybody can use. It's a desktop application. You're meant to be able to just download it, click start, and that agent will start doing useful things for you without you having to sit there and babysit it or interact with it. So yeah, the first two use cases are prediction markets and DeFi asset management, but we also have an accelerator where we're investing $1 million in the builders of the best agents, and we've got use cases like dating agents. We've got uses like kind of companion game called Pet that you can play with. There's also self-governing markets for the very financial among you. So yeah, I think it's always difficult to kind of pin your finger on which you think will be the biggest. But I think you're hitting the nail on the head that it needs to be something that everybody can benefit from. And so yeah, that's kind of where we're working on it at the moment.
If anyone else has an answer that they are dying to share, go for it. If not, we have a question.
I think everything you said, and also agent-to-agent payments and micropayments for microservices, because there will be no agent smart enough to do everything for us. We may have one agent, one preferred agent, personal assistant we interact with, but then there will be lots of other services like buying a ticket, buying, vacation, and inferring something, playing a game. So there will be specialized agents for certain services, and they need to pay each other. And I think that's where crypto and AI agents can make a difference. But again, I believe that there will be, or I believe or I hope, I don't know, there will be so much demand for micropayments that we need to rethink the whole concept of decentralized payment systems. Because unless we can do those in parallel, embarrassingly parallel, then we'll have a serious bottleneck there. Okay, so, and if you think about it, it is literally ridiculous that my agent buying a ticket and your agent playing a game have to stay in line to make a payment on a blockchain. Right? They shouldn't. They should do it in parallel. They should, all these operations should be parallel. And if conceptually something makes sense in a certain way, science proves that that thing will happen. So that's what we believe at Pi Squared, and that's what we do. We have a massively parallel payment system, which is not capped on TPS. Right? So it's horizontally scalable. You need more TPS, add more validators, incentivize more validators to participate in the network. AI agents can be validators at some point, even. Yeah, so that's the future we believe in.
So I had a question. I was wondering what you guys thought about like the trading agents, because they've been like popping up a lot, especially with like virtuals and the ecosystem like that. Do you all think, is that like a race to the bottom, or is that, or is that gonna, you know, like, because eventually, is it gonna require humans to talk with the agents so they can find an edge? Because like, if it's all autonomous, you know, the markets become, you know, efficient, then there's no gains to be made. I was wondering what you thought about that, but yeah.
This is a really, really good question. And I think it's important to like first start by dissecting what an agent is responsible for in a financial environment. There is like the execution part, there is the logic part, there is the governance part, and some of those things are not ready to be held by the agent itself, right? For example, it's also like trading is such a speculative thing, right? It's also a huge spectrum. Like, are we talking about like, is landing markets trading, or just like talking about more like speculative, oh, agent is going to buy my Bitcoin at, I think probably everybody in this room has seen the Alpha Arena, which was like an incredible experiment in my opinion. But we all saw that how that ended up, right? I think like what we believe in and the products that we have is that you can have an agent that will execute your financial objectives better than you ever will based on the constraints you set up for it. So the governance part and the rules that the agent should run needs to be still dictated by you. We are not at a stage where the agent can understand all of the market risks and, you know, function accordingly. But if you say, I want to be exposed to this market, I don't want to be exposed to this collateral or this curator, and you give the agent a clear intent, such as I want, you know, double digits return on my ETH, BTC, whatever stable coins you want to do, then the agent will make it work 1,000 times than you ever will, because it's just purely comparing human capabilities and agentic capabilities. We don't have the capability to digest vast amounts of real-time on-chain data and make split-second decisions accordingly. We don't really have the capability to be even profitable. Like, right, we are very emotional human beings. Everybody in this room has probably sold too early and bought too late. Like, it's time to, I think, understand and come to peace with like the parts that we are good at as humans, which I think an orchestrator, right? Because we all have specific dreams and specific objectives that we want to go after, and let the execution done by an entity that is much more performant than we are, that is running persistently, that is running intelligently, unemotionally. I think trading agents, it's very, very speculative. Like, it's almost caricature, you know, like I will give my money to an agent, it will buy this Bitcoin dip and it will sell the next. It just doesn't exist. That alpha has not been solved in the world. If anybody in this room had that capability, we wouldn't be in this room together, right? Like, I would be somewhere else. But like, delegate your finances to an entity that runs 24/7, because markets are running 24/7. there's a lot to be done there, right? I think there's a lot of profitability, there's a lot of alpha, there's a lot of excitement that can be done there, and that's what I think we should focus on. Yeah, that's the answer.
Thank you. Super interesting question. Part of your question that I wanted to pull out was this question about there's autonomous experience where the agent is doing everything for you, and then there's cases where you would want to be involved yourself, right? And it's been quite an interesting one for us because from the beginning, the agents that we were really interested in was a very purely autonomous experience. We wanted to be able to come, set some kind of high-level goal, not even move this ETH here or grow this by, but something like make me healthier, make me wealthier, right? Something very high level, and the agent goes and figures out what's the questions, what's the answers, what are the parameters that I need. And so that's the kind of experience that we started Pearl with. As this agent app store, you come, you turn it on, it has a goal, and it just goes and does stuff. But it's been quite interesting because, and partially maybe this is due to the success of ChatGPT or just where we're at the moment, but I think it might come also from what the intention is of somebody who's trading, that there was such curiosity and pull from people to actually not have a fully autonomous experience, to have an experience where they could chat to their agent and they could understand what it was doing, or they could shape its goals in natural language rather than just setting it free to do whatever it does. So we now have both this kind of co-pilot mode and a fully autonomous mode. And my kind of gut instinct about this is that potentially, I could be wrong, we'll see, right? But I wonder whether the curiosity or need for both actually comes from the different types of traders that you have, whether you're there purely for the economic, let's make as much money as we can, or whether actually, as we were saying, it's quite speculative, it's quite fun. I want to come and engage with this and have it as an experience rather than have it as a value that I'm being given by kind of a very autonomous product. So yeah, I think very interesting question, and we'll see how products evolve over time.
I'll just add one thing really quickly. I think one of the more interesting agent demos I've seen was a sports betting agent called Billy Bets. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but basically the statistics are a really good sports bettor is right 8 to 10% of the time, and Billy Bets is able to come in and be 22% of the time. And so I think that kind of behavior always reminds me that we are a little bit of a casino. People love gambling in this industry, whether that's DeFi, whether that's sports, it is what it is. And so we are almost at time, so I'm gonna do a rapid fire, just one quick thing, what is the most excited, area you're most excited for around agents? And I'll actually say one also, I'm really excited about collective memory.
Awesome. Maybe we want to start this end. I feel like I'm monopolizing.
I'd say agent versus agent gaming and competitions.
Financial agents for me, 100%.
Massively parallel verifiable settlement for agents.
I'm struggling to pick one.
Dating agents, I'm curious about that.
Maybe dating agents. Maybe we should all be dating via agent. Come and chat later if you want to hear more.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are at time, and enjoy the rest of your day.